evening, everyone. Welcome back to the 1 Hour series. My name is Julia Gorban, and tonight we have a very, very special guest who has got so many credits that it would probably take me a couple of days to list them all. So let's just say he is a TV and film actor and also Broadway actor with a lot of credits. He's also a writer, and he has worked with such stars and knows such stars as Lucille Ball and Robert De Niro. So we'll talk more about that during our stream. For tonight, we'll talk about this guest artist's career, and you can ask questions and get tips from him on maybe how to get where he got in his career. So I am happy to introduce Dun, 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 Jim Brochu. Hi, Jim.
Here I am. Hi, Julia.
Thank you again for being here. We're all
Well,
so
it's my
excited to have
pleasure.
you.
What are some of my favorite credits of yours?
I,
Yeah, go ahead. Never mind.
I don't, there's so many, honestly. For me, honestly, when I read your bio, and by the way, for those who want to know more about Jim, there's a whole, like 3 pages worth of stuff on Wikipedia about Jim. But
You know,
honestly,
I was shocked when I saw that, Julia.
oh, the
I really
Wikipedia
didn't
thing?
know about Wikipedia, and they said, go look at it. And I was absolutely gobsmacked to see all that. I have no idea who put all that up. I'm glad I'm there. And it seems to get changed every time I make one of my other remarkable accomplishments in this life. But yeah, read about me there.
Yeah, Wikipedia is interesting that way. There's like anyone can edit it, but then they also check the facts kind of thing. So it's
Yes.
you've got
Yeah.
fans who edit it for you then.
Yeah. It's nice. When I was growing up, the big thing was to be in a book called Who's Who in America, and it was the size of an encyclopedia, huge book, and that's how you know you had made it if you were in Who's Who in America. But now Wikipedia,
Now
I
it's like
think,
if
is
you're on
the
Wikipedia,
yeah.
then you know
Yeah.
you've made it.
Yeah,
Now
Mrs.
speaking of your
O'Leary's cow is on Wikipedia too, so it all evens out,
right.
doesn't it?
Now speaking of your favorite credits, um, this is not really a credit, but when reading your bio, I think my favorite part was how you met Lucille Ball and the
Oh,
project that was supposed to happen but didn't happen. So could you talk a little bit about that and also just, working and knowing someone like Lucille Ball? What was that like?
sure. When I was growing up, I Love Lucy was probably the only thing that made people laugh in our house. And when I was 13, she was playing on Broadway in a show called Wildcat. And so I begged my father to take me to see it. He did. We went to a Saturday matinee, and there was Lucille Ball, and I had my program. And at the end, I waited around to see her, and all of a sudden, she was on the stage. I ran down with my program. I said, Miss Ball, can I have your autograph? And she said, oh, sorry, no autographs today. And out she walked. Now, dissolved to about 17 years later when I'm a working writer in Hollywood, and she decided to give a 6 week seminar in comedy. And I thought a seminar, a very quiet place where maybe there'd be 12 of us and Lucille Ball. And sure enough, I walked in to, it was a place called the Sherwood Oaks Experimental College. And it was a ton of people. There was 100 people there, and there was a director's chair in front. And she sat down, and I remember I brought an apple. I thought it would be funny if I brought an apple for the teacher. And of course, there were 42 apples on the table already. So a friend of mine just gave me a tape of that first class, and she and I got into a fight. She didn't like All in the Family, and I thought it was a brilliant show, and she didn't like the language that was being used. And I said, if we don't expose that language, we can't disabuse ourselves of how stupid and hateful it is to use those words. Well, anyway, she had none of it. But the very last class, I still had my program from Wildcat. And I thought, finally, I'll get her to autograph it. So out I come with my little program, waiting in line to see her, and about two people away from where I was, her husband came zooming in and said, come on, Luce, we got to go. And off she went. I still had my unsigned program. So now we dissolved to 1988. And I had written a screenplay. No, it was a series. Well, it started out as a play, and that's what got the attention of a couple of producers. And it was called The Lucky O'Learys, and it was about two elderly sisters. And the original readings were done by two wonderful ladies named Pat Carroll and Kathleen Freeman, two great actresses. And my friend Merrill Karpf, who was a producer, heard about it. So this is a very name-droppy story, but I got in touch with Katharine Hepburn, who I knew. And I sent it to her, and she said, she called it the Irish piece, that she loved the Irish piece, but she'd be totally miscast, and I should ask Lucille. And I said, Ball? And she said yes, and that was the end of the conversation. So I found a Maps to the Stars home with my partner, Steve, and it was 1000 North Roxbury Drive was her address. So I decided I would put the play in an envelope, write a note that said I had been at the Sherwood Oaks Experimental College with her so many years before. And I think, Julia, this is the important one. I said, and I play backgammon, because I knew she was a backgammon freak. So I just put it in her mailbox. And 2 days later, the phone rang, and it was Lucy. And she said, I loved your play. It made me laugh for the first time in 2 years. Can you come over and talk about it? So I said, of course. So I went over to North Roxbury Drive, and she herself opened the door. She was all in white. I'll never forget that. A white blouse and white slacks. She looked gorgeous. And so we had some small talk going through the house, and we went out to the back house, to the pool house, which was set up primarily as just a backgammon room. And pictures of her in Mame just dotted the walls. So I sat down opposite her and broke her chair. I mean, the thing just cracked. And I didn't know whether to be silent or to admit what I had done. I mean, I just met the great Lucille Ball. And I said, Miss Ball, and she said, oh, call me Lucy. I said, well, Lucy, I just broke your chair.
Great
and
introduction.
She said, well, take another one. So I said, oh, okay. So I took the second chair, put it in front of the table, sat down, and crack, I broke the second one.
Oh my gosh.
And she heard that crack and just kind of rolled her eyes like, what had she gotten herself into? And I said, why don't I take that chair over there? It looks sturdy. She said, well, the other two look sturdy too. So after a day where she tried to tell me a joke, which I can't repeat here in public, maybe in individual confessionals, I can tell you what the joke was. But she roared and I roared, and we just bonded that first day. We talked about having lost a parent at an early age, and both New Yorkers and both Leos, and she said, can you come back tomorrow? So I said, well, of course I can come back tomorrow, but if I come back tomorrow, you have to give me a present because tomorrow's my birthday. And she took a second and she looked at me and she said, well, maybe I'll give you a chair. So the next day I came back and I could see that the chairs had been arranged so that there was a very sturdy one where I was about to sit down. And, oh, there's the cat. And so about halfway through the game, she stood up and she went to the corner. And she came back with a little hot cross bun. And she started singing happy birthday to you. And I got very emotional. And she said, well, what are you crying for? And I said, well, did Lucille Ball ever sing happy birthday to you? And I opened the box, and there was a watch inside with her little face on the watch face. And the note said, for Jim, I will always have time for you. And from that day on, I spent every single day with Lucy until the day she died. The day before she went into the hospital, she got a package. And I'm not sure where it was from, but she opened them, and it was a studio shot of her, which was it was about 1940, and she was in ermine, her hair was piled up. And she said, "Do you have this one?" I said, "No, but I really want it." So she signed it. I could see her sign it, and then she left it by the door, and I took it when I left. And the next day, she was in the hospital, and 10 days later, she was dead. And in that envelope, I looked at it and said, "For Jim, you are very special. Love, Lucy." And I realized, Julia, at that time, I had gotten her last autograph after, so many times of trying to get it. So that's how I met and got to know Lucille Ball. Thank you very much.
Wow, what a story. You must
I
be
was
a
very
writer.
lucky.
You're such a good storyteller.
I make my living as a writer.
Speaking of that, could you also talk about being an actor and a writer? Just because I feel like a lot of actors maybe want to write, but they don't know where to start. Like, how do you even get your stuff out there?
Well, I write. I started writing for me out of necessity. That I learned very early on in this profession that you have to do for yourself. I knew I had some talent as a writer, and I actually started writing for television for Sid and Marty Krofft, a Saturday morning show called Wonderbug, which was a lot of fun. That got me into the Writers Guild of America West, the union, and then I went on to work for the Kroffts a couple of years later in a primetime show, a primetime variety show called Pink Lady and Jeff, which TV Guide once called the worst show in the history of the medium, and I have to agree with him. It was just terrible. But as an actor, and I consider myself primarily an actor, and as an actor, you can't wait for something to happen. You can't wait for a casting call that you might be right for, but 50 other people might be right for it. And maybe there's a couple of people who are more talented. I've also sat on the other side of the desk as a casting director and as a director. And it's a very strange process that 9 out of 10 times when you walk through the door, we will know right away whether it's a yes or a no. There's just something that when you walk into the door, they talk about first impressions, and that's what I would leave people with. When you have to make a great first impression. But if you don't, it's not necessarily because of you. It's because of the way these people subjectively see the part. There's nothing objective about an audition. It's all subjective by the people who are trying to cast their show. So knowing that, I thought, I can't wait for somebody to write me a play. I'm a writer, so I will write my own play. I actually started writing. The first play I wrote was on a bet in Kansas City while I was doing Fiddler on the Roof there. I was playing Tevye, and the producer was producing some other show, and I said, "Oh, that's a terrible play." He said, "Well, it took that man 2 years to write that play." I said, "Well, I can write you a bad play in a week." And so we had this bet, and I wrote a play called Cookin' with Gus that I admit is one of the 10 worst plays in the history of the medium of the theater. It was, as they say, a typical dinner theater play with 4 actors, 3 scenes, 2 intermissions, 1 set, and no plot. And I actually borrowed heavily from a couple of old I Love Lucy episodes and kind of meshed them together with different characters. As somebody once said, talent borrows and genius steals. So I then wrote another musical based on some very personal issues, and then wrote a story with Steve about called The Big Voice God or Merman. That Ethel Merman had a huge effect on my life when I was trying to decide what business I wanted to go to. And at first I wanted to be a priest until I met Ethel Merman when I was 12 years old, and then I knew I was going into the theater. But then as you get older, the parts become fewer and fewer, and parts go to the people that they know. So if they don't know you, there's a double burden on you. So I had always been compared to Zero Mostel. I read about Zero, and he had a tremendous story and about overcoming obstacles as a Jew, as a man, as an entertainer. And I thought, this is the stuff of great drama. So I wrote the play, 0 Hour, and now I've done over 800 performances of it over 13 years. And thankfully, I have a shelf full of awards for it. The point of all this is you can't wait for something to happen. You have to use whatever talent you have, whether it's writing, whether it's singing, put an act together for yourself, but use what you have to make the most of what you want to become. That was awfully deep, wasn't it? Very deep.
Yes, I felt the depth. I was like, oh.
There was depth. There was a lot of depth, yeah.
Very inspirational, though. I gotta say that. And so inspirational that we have a question from the audience, which I will ask.
Question from the audience?
Yes, which I will ask now to make sure that it doesn't get lost in between other
Who is this question coming from? I demand to know.
Jaylan Halliburton. Jaylan watches our videos all the time. So he's.
And where is Ms. Halliburton?
Well, I believe Jaylan. Where are you, in Indiana or in Chicago? He's either in Chicago or in Indiana. Not sure where exactly. So Jaylan, let us know.
It's a fellow. It's a Mr. Halliburton.
Yes, Mr.
Sorry, I wasn't familiar with your first name.
And Jaylan wants to make it to Broadway and to Hollywood. So
who doesn't?
He's got a question. How does one transition from Broadway acting to Hollywood acting and vice versa? I guess maybe in general, film and theater acting, because a lot of people do both. Some people do one and then transition.
It's a good question, but Julia, you kind of hit the nail on the head. What kind of acting are you? I'm a stage actor. I've always been a stage actor. It's not that I haven't done films and done TV work, but I've never felt natural in front of a camera. Until really recently, the last couple of, maybe the last 10 years, I've gotten it so I just put the camera out of my mind and, connect with the other actor. Also, when your acting partner, the last show I did is Audra McDonald, that's pretty good, she keeps you focused. Where's your passion? Also, where do you want to live? Do you want to live in California where the film is? Do you want to live in New York where the stage is? My advice is to get a foothold in either one of the major cities. Or if you're in Chicago, there's an awful lot of work for an actor. And also, what is it you want to be? Do you have visions of being a star, with your name over the title? Or do you have visions of being a working actor? And you can be those in either one of those two cities, but it takes somebody getting to know you, casting directors, agents who believe in you and will work with you. But you can do that either place, but focus on what you want to do. If you want to make films, that's great. Get a lot of film on yourself. That's how you sell yourself to Hollywood, is by showing them what you do and what you look like on screen. New York, not so much. You go and you meet the people and they see what you are and they hear what you are in person, which is, what stage is. But that's my two pieces of advice for you. If it's film, get film on yourself and send it around. Just send it around and go to Hollywood.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, if there's a lot of talk about, okay, there's work in Chicago for film, but there's only a few shows that film in Chicago, so they cast, and even those shows cast their stars from California or New York.
Right,
and then,
sure.
So in Chicago, you can only get, I don't think you can even get a guest star role from Chicago.
Well, then get out of Chicago, young man. Get out tonight.
Jaylan, get a ticket.
Jaylan, get in a cab right now. Go to the airport and say, take me to Hollywood.
Jaylan is saying he's in Gary, Indiana. That's what I thought.
Gary, Indiana, Gary, Indiana, Gary, Indiana. Let me say it once again.
And you even get a song for it, Jaylan. But Jaylan said
life is a song cue, dear.
Life is a song, yes. Life is a stage. Okay, so Jaylan said that he's currently doing stage acting, but he does want to go into film acting in the future. So, and I actually know a lot of actors like that who are in theater, but either also do like film on the side. But I
Yeah,
guess it's mostly they mostly play roles here and there, with theater being their main focus. And
yeah.
I know some film actors who do film like 90% of the time, and then sometimes they would do like a theater play. Because I guess if you were doing film full time or theater full time, you'll be too busy
Right.
doing
Well,
one that you can't do the other.
right when you say film for New York, that also means a great deal of television.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
great number of shows that film here, and they always look for stage actors. And you can pick up. The last thing I've been doing is a show called The Good Fight, where I play Judge. Oh God, I forgot his name.
What's my role
I'll
again?
think of his name. He's a wonderful judge from New Hampshire. Lovely man. Very terse. Yes. God, what the hell is his name? That's funny. I can't even think of my own name.
See,
What
that
should I
happens
think
to
of my
me all the
character's
time.
name?
Like as an actor, you play so many roles, you're like, what is that character name? What's my name again?
Right.
It's so
Right.
confusing.
Yes. If my phone was closer, I'd look me up and see what I played. But I may think of it before the end of the night, and that will certainly be a joyous moment for all of us, won't it?
Yes, because now I want to know too.
Oh, good.
All right, let me see. Oh, actually, let me ask you this because we had a question from someone who could not watch live, but they messaged me in advance and asked to ask you this. Um, so, what is it like to be a star? Is it as glorious as everybody thinks? Because it's this the person wanted to know this. They're like, I don't know if I should just strive to work towards being a working actor, or if I should go towards being a star, because a lot of people, even honestly, a lot of people in that I know also that are not in the acting industry, for them, unless you're in Hollywood or in Broadway, you're not an actor kind of thing. So, what does it feel to have a Wikipedia page, Jim?
I don't know what it feels like to be a star because I'm not a star. I'm a very well known entity within the Broadway community. Outside of that, people don't know who the hell I am. I've done a lot of television appearances. I was just the guest host on Turner Classic Movies, which was nice. So I've achieved a certain amount of fame within the industry, but certainly not with the general public. So I don't know what it's like to be a star. But I have been around a lot of stars. I've gotten to know a lot of stars. Joan Crawford was a very close friend of mine. And I'll tell you what it was like to be a star for her. I was at her apartment one night, and she had on no makeup. She had a house coat and kind of a babushka, and a pizza commercial came on. And she said, "Oh, Jimmy, wouldn't it be great to go out and get a slice of pizza?" I said, "Well, Joan, come on, let's go." And she stopped and she looked at me and she said, "Don't you know I can't go out? It would take me 2 hours to get ready. I can't leave this building unless I'm Joan Crawford." So there's a prison about being famous. When I was a kid, that's the only thing I wanted. I wanted to be famous. Oh, fame. Have people love me. And then as I got to know very famous people, I thought, no, this is a two-edged sword. And I like my privacy more than I like being in public. So if you're striving to be a star, that's kind of a silly aspiration. If you're striving to be a good actor, and then you acquire the roles that is going to give you public notoriety, and the public declares you a star, that you can actually bank money on the fact that this certain person is in a film or in a stage project, that's a star. It's about money, that you can invest in this person and you're going to get a return because they're a star. The George M. Cohan used to say they don't go to see the play, they go to see the player. And I think that's true. So strive to be a good actor, and if you're meant to be a star, it'll happen.
Yeah, I agree. I had my 15 minutes of fame with the American Idol, And that kind of showed me, that world after I was on TV. People were like messaging me, and everybody was like,
Yeah,
"Oh my god, oh my god," and I was like, "I'm just a regular person. Like, why is everybody like, you
right.
know?" And so for me personally, I had a period when I was in my life when I was like, I want to be a star. That's all I want. And then
Yeah,
now I'm just like, I just want to be in shows. And I mean, I love film too, but like
right,
mostly theater shows. As long as I can keep being a working actor, then
right.
that's all that matters.
That's the word, Julia. It's about working, work, work,
Hmm.
work, and it's the work that's the reward.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, I do theater for free. I don't even care. I'm like, as
Sure,
long as I
because you
can
love it.
do, and exactly, yeah. And it's like late rehearsals, or if it's tech week, I'm sure all the actors know tech week. You always uh, stay late, and it's, I mean, some equity rules. Of course, there's equity rules that you can't keep actors longer than whatever, but still, there's like a thing where you just work late, and it's every time I had to stay late for shows, I was like, I wanted to go on for longer. I'm like, I want to be here until tomorrow morning, and that's, I feel like as long as you can feel like that about whatever you do in life, that's that's all that you need. And if you become a star while at it, I guess great. But then I personally
Yeah,
don't feel like
it's
putting makeup every single day when I get out of the house.
yeah, it's a byproduct. It's something you can't really strive for or set a goal for.
Hmm. Exactly. Yeah, you don't. Sometimes there's like overnight fame, and you it's people who did not ask for it, and they're like, I don't know what to
Yeah,
do with.
but overnight fame usually takes a lot of years. It's when
Yeah.
preparation meets opportunity, and you got to be prepared.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. So it's if sometimes I guess sometimes overnight fame is not a good thing if you're not famous in a good way. It's like, oh, look at this person embarrassing themselves on
Right, right.
on this show.
Yeah, I mean, I led a very quiet life of having a wonderful time in the theater. It was only about 10 or 11 years ago, after I won all these major awards, that I had a spotlight on me, and it became different. I became a wanted entity because all of a sudden I had fans, and people, God knows why, would pay to come see me, and that's something I still can't get over. But you know, just strive to be a good actor, and if you become a star, then you'll be getting a lot more money.
Oh yeah, but also I feel like maybe we as actors sometimes feel like we have to become stars or at least famous enough because a lot of Hollywood films and Broadway shows cast people who are known. So it's like if you're not a well-known actor, forget about being in
Right,
like any kind of a lead role on Broadway or Hollywood. I mean, there's exceptions obviously, but it's
right.
it's way easier if people know you and they're like, okay, let's hire this person because they'll sell
Absolutely, it
tickets.
is way easier if people know you, but go get known.
Yeah, that's great advice. Let's go get known.
Go get known.
Since
It's
the
not
world is
easy.
reopening, let's get on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not easy unless you have a lot of money and you can do a lot of publicity for yourself. Then you know,
Or do
it's
your own Hollywood movie, even better. Produce your own
well,
movie.
that's what I'm saying. Get film on yourself, even if it's your own film that you're doing,
Yeah.
so people can actually see what you look like on the screen. And you can certainly become more famous in television and film than you can in the theater.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But you would say
But we're
you've got to be in LA for that, right? For for
for
for film.
film.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the preponderance of the work is there,
Hmm.
but still, there's a great deal of television work here, and I guess the occasional film is made. I don't think anything's been made over the last year, but it's starting to come back to life. I feel bad for the actors who were just starting out and had to come across this year
Hmm.
of nothing, nothing. And what did they do? How did they cope with that year of no work?
Yeah. Exactly. I feel like our industry suffered. Well, I don't want to say the most, and I'm probably right. The entertainment industry is like this.
Absolutely, the entertainment, restaurants, service industries, hotels. I mean, New York is certainly not the New York it was over a year ago. The bustling. I live about 2 blocks from Times Square, And just walking through it and not seeing it populated with very many people, it's very sad. But it just the other day though, I saw a whatchamacallit, a sightseeing bus, one of those double-decker sightseeing buses,
yeah.
and I hadn't seen that in well over a year. And I thought, all right, this is a positive sign. People are starting to come back.
Were there people on the bus?
There were, yeah.
Well, I don't know if those were tourists or just New Yorkers, but either way, it's a good sign.
It's a pretty penny to get on these buses, the sightseeing buses. We New Yorkers have our own buses and our own problems to deal with. So yeah, no, they were definitely out of towners, unless some New Yorkers decided they wanted to take the tour.
Yeah, that's like, oh, I'll just take a tour of the city to get out of the house.
That's
after
right.
a year of, or more than a year of not going anywhere.
Right.
Well, there's hope for the future. Apparently, I think was it like 40% of the adult population of the U.S. is vaccinated or got the first dose.
That's great.
So it's moving. It's moving. Here's hoping. All right, on a more positive note, talking about back to acting. Let's see if we have. We'd have some questions from the audience.
Hello, audience.
Okay, we have a question from Irina, and she is in Canada. So her question is the USA better for your acting career than Canada? So is it better to be in the USA than Canada? What do you think?
I have absolutely no idea. I really don't. I don't know what the Canadian market is. I don't know where shows are done or other shows are filmed. I don't know.
Well, I was in Canada. I lived in Canada.
Then you answer the question, damn it.
So I can say, I mean, I didn't do a lot of theater in Canada, but there's definitely less theaters in Canada and less film. However, apparently it's become cheaper to film in Canada than it is in places in the U.S. Although I think Georgia has like a tax break for filming there, so everybody's filming in Georgia. But
nobody wants to go to Georgia.
Well, I actually have a few actor friends who moved to Atlanta because a lot of stuff gets filmed there. So a lot of at least like day player roles get cast there. So if you want to be a working actor, it's a good place to be. But apparently they film a lot of stuff in Canada because it's cheaper to, rent stuff there and like block off streets in Canada than it is in the U.S., like in New York or L.A. Forget it.
Yeah.
It's like go to Toronto.
I think there's opportunities everywhere. And it all depends. There's unions that you have to think about that. I don't know if the Canadian equity is the same as United States, or whether you can work you're having one equity card and not the other, and the same for the Screen Actors Guild. So those are things that you have to figure out of how to make it work. But as far as the mechanics of it, I really have no idea.
Yeah, I heard that it's very hard for a Canadian actor to be hired for a U.S. Play or film because they have so many actors in the U.S. Because you have to to work in the U.S. you have to prove that they could not find anyone else for this role in the U.S.
And we're not having an acting shortage down here.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly. So although there have been a few, Samantha Hill, who played Cosette and Christine on Broadway, is from Canada. So she got hired somehow, which means it is possible. And there are a few Canadian film actors.
Well, I want a full investigation into why that happened, and I'm going to make a complaint to Equity immediately after this program.
How dare you hire a Canadian?
How dare all this go on?
Yes, so it is possible, although I hear it's not easy. You get, or if you have a work visa for the U.S., or even better, a green card or a U.S. passport, then you can obviously go audition in the USA. Which just solves all the problems.
I guess.
So just do that. Get a green card. Everybody come to the USA. We have vaccines here because I heard Canada has some problems with that currently.
Was that right? Oh,
yeah.
Poor Canada.
Yeah, there's either a shortage or I don't know what's going on. They're on lockdown again, like complete lockdown. Nobody's allowed to leave except for essential business people.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, schools closed again, so they just keep closing and opening, closing and opening. But the vaccines, I think they're still vaccinating like people who are 80 years old and older, something.
Wow.
I'm not like, don't quote me on that because I don't know the facts. It's just like hearsay. But it's also been on the news, I think, somewhere that vaccinations are going so like people are coming from Canada to the US to get vaccines. I don't know how they're doing that, but
And for acting jobs.
and for acting jobs. Yeah. Apparently it's easier to get a vaccine than an acting job as a Canadian
Right.
in the USA. So yeah, but it's yeah, speaking of unions, there's ACTRA is the union, the equivalent of equity in Canada. So that's a Canadian union. I don't know how it works with equity, to be honest, but I'm sure there's you can find that out. It's for those watching. I'm hoping to get someone from Actors Equity from the USA to come on one of these
Oh,
streams.
that's good. Good
And
idea.
maybe they can talk about the international stuff and how that
Yeah.
works too.
Yeah, oh, that's an excellent idea. The nuts and bolts of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that way we can all, especially if you're just starting out in the industry, it's good to know these things about equity from someone who is actually,
Right.
working for equity.
No, that's a great idea.
All right, so I talked too much, so I'm gonna just move on to the next question here. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna check if we have any other questions from the audience, and well, actually, okay. Let's ask this question next. Um, how good do you have to be to compete with Broadway and Hollywood actors? Because, like you said, if you know people, it's easier to get roles. If you're famous, it's easier to get roles. But if you're not that well known, what does it take to get there?
Well, to answer the first part, you have to think that you're better than everybody else, or else there's no reason to put yourself up for it. I'm not sure I understand the second part of the question.
I'm not sure I remember the second part of the question, to be honest.
Oh,
What did I just say? It was, well, yeah, it was like the general question was just like, what does it take to get there? What, like hard work, dedication, talent, luck.
well,
What do you have to do to make it?
all that is true, but that's true of any profession. Acting, has its own rules. And the number one word I always tell a young performer to concentrate on is the word focus. Focus, focus, focus. You must do something for your career every single day. Know the things that are important. It's important to have good pictures. It's important to have a monologue at your fingertips, a song at your fingertips, a scene. It's important to contact all the agents, send out pictures to casting directors, know what's happening in the town that you're in, what's filming, what's not filming, what's on hiatus, who are the casting directors for these things, what agents, if you're looking for an agent, what agents are having open auditions for their agency. It's getting books like Backstage and Variety and finding out where the auditions are, where the agents are, where the casting directors are. It takes a tremendous amount of dedication. It's called show business, but I think 65% of it is the business aspect of it. That there are certain things you have to do and be accomplished at, and taking lessons, and the rest of it is your talent. But all the beforehand goes on to developing that talent, so that when the opportunity comes, you are prepared to meet it, and hopefully you're the best, and that you'll get the job, and one job leads to another. I always said work leads to work. It never fails. When I did a job back when I was starting out, I was always getting rehired by the people that hired me for the first show. And that's so true of Broadway. You'll see the same names associated with producers and directors that You want to hire people you know, that you've worked with, that you know aren't crazy, that you know will do the best job, and who have the talent to do it. So that's my advice for that, and I'm sticking to my story.
Great, great advice. Now, could you, this is just a technical thing, everybody. Jim, could you move a little bit to your left just so we can see your full headshot type of,
The
yes,
fullness
perfect.
of my,
Fullness,
of my
yes.
being.
Because as a
You're very
perfectionist,
demanding.
as a
Very
perfectionist, you
demanding.
have to be centered, or else it's like, I'm like, you're not centered. What is going on? Now you're centered. Thank you. I feel much better
You're
now.
very welcome.
All right. So, moving on with the questions, just because we don't have that much time left. This has been so great so far, and we've been on here for like 40 minutes. It felt like 5. So.
Not to me, it didn't.
You're like, it felt like 10 hours. Please stop this. Okay, so you mentioned the all those things that people need to get to Hollywood and Broadway. But where can one even find those auditions? I mean, for film, usually they say if you don't have an agent, you like forget about finding auditions for like big budget movies and TV shows. So where would you find auditions like that?
Well, as I said, the newspaper Backstage, you can subscribe to that online, and also Playbill. Are you okay? Do you need some water? Do you need 911 or something?
No, I'm
Oh,
good.
there she goes. She's having a
For
seizure.
for those who don't know, I just started coughing randomly. You guys couldn't
They
hear me,
didn't
but
hear
Jim
that?
could. So, Jim,
You
keep
mean,
talking. I'm
do you
just
have a
gonna
mute-
keep coughing. Nobody can hear me.
You mean you have a mute button there that if you...
No, it's the button that just shows your frame and not me. Oh,
No,
now
I'm doing
Jim.
that on purpose.
Jim,
No,
I know,
never mind.
I know you are. At first, I was
All
like, oh
right.
my God, what's going on?
What was the question? You don't remember it, do you?
Oh, where do you find those big budget movie auditions?
As I said, there are outlets. There's the Equity Casting Call. There's the industry newspapers. Subscribe to those online, and all the auditions are right there. There's a website called Actors Access, and they have all the auditions there. And also get an agent. And get a good theatrical agent, and that starts with a headshot that's going to pique their interest.
Yeah, and I'm sure lots of agents are going to be looking for new people starting like
Yes.
now, because the world is reopening.
People get older, and if you were right for something between 20 and 30, you're going to be right for something between 30 and 40 now. And a new crop of 20 and 30s are coming along.
Yeah, they say that if you're 25, you play 35-year-olds in Hollywood. If you're 35, you play 45-year-olds. That's why you see movies where the parents are like in their mid 30s and with like teenage kids who are like 17, 18. You're like, what is this? That doesn't happen in real life.
Crazy.
But that's the reality of Hollywood. I guess when I took a film class, that's what the instructor said. I was like,
Where'd
okay,
you take
yeah,
the film? Where
you're
was
in your
film
20s,
class?
but get ready to play your 30s if you're.
Where was your film class?
Oh, in Chicago. I took a bunch of classes at Vagabond School, Actor Studio of Chicago, all those good places. And yeah, so the instructor was just straight up. He was like, yeah, it's like when I was 35, I played 45-year-olds. That's just how it is. Unrealistic expectations of Hollywood. You gotta look 10 years younger than you actually are. Although I have to say, sometimes they have like 25-year-olds play 15-year-olds too. So it's like, come on, Hollywood, decide, is this like, what are we doing here? Are 25-year-olds playing 35-year-olds, or are they playing 15?
Hollywood must decide.
They must decide.
And they must decide tonight, or else I
want to know what roles I'm
closing down.
Am I playing princesses or am I playing grandmas here?
That's what I'm saying. Am I a princess or am I a grandpa?
You're right. You want to know.
Yes, I'm a princess.
Oh my gosh. And this reminds me, we had a stream with a Disney casting director a few weeks ago, and it was all about princesses. Like, I just could not. I love Beauty and the Beast. Belle is my favorite princess, so I was just like girl fanning over Belle.
It wasn't Steve Fickinger, was it?
No, Dan Labuono was the casting director.
Good.
But he's the casting director for Disney Parks and Cruises. I'll say that again.
I said, I hope he had better advice than I do.
Well, we talked about casting, so it was a very different, stream. With you, we're talking about stars in Hollywood and Broadway, and with him, we talked about how do you actually get cast and stuff like that. Okay, let me see so we only have about 10 minutes left. So if anybody has any questions for Jim, put them down in comments now. And I will ask Jim the next question. So, okay, let's go with this one. This one's a good one. This one was from Jennifer, who couldn't watch live today, so she asked me in advance. She was asking, what are the major differences of auditioning for film and theater? She mentioned that she's a theater actress and looking to get into film, so she asked what can she expect at film auditions as opposed to, what are the main differences, I guess she wants to know.
Well, I mean, it's for stage, you're usually in the room auditioning for the people who are about to hire you. I understand film is quite different now, especially since the pandemic hit, that I've had several auditions and they've all been on Zoom. So that's how it's happening these days. The thing about film acting is, as Spencer Tracy used to say, just say the lines. And the camera picks up all the emotion and everything else you're doing. With a stage audition, you still have to let them know that you can play to the second balcony. And so it's very different. One is very, inward, and the other is very outward.
Yeah, and for film, I found for myself personally, because I am primarily a theater actress, so I'm used to like being big, and I in real life I also have like a big personality. I just don't know how to talk quietly, kind of thing,
Yeah.
So I had to learn to be like, okay, contain myself, because if I move like this on camera, it's weird, and people are going to be like, what is she doing? So I had to take film classes and like be like, okay, stationary, just act natural.
Yeah, I was listening to a very interesting conversation that was taped, 50 years ago with Orson Welles. And he said one of the greatest film actors was Jimmy Cagney. And he said it was strange because Cagney was a stage actor and he never made the transition to film. He said everything he did was he was playing to the second balcony, even in the movies. But it worked for him. And it became part of his trademark. And I thought that was fascinating. And I agree with Mr. Wells that you can bring anything to it if you bring yourself to it. And that's what Cagney was doing. And that, to me, what all the great stars of yesteryear were doing. They were individuals. I don't see that as much today in the films. To me, all the actors are interchangeable. You think about a Marilyn Monroe. My God, an instant, image comes to mind, and you feel the presence of Marilyn Monroe. I can't think of a female movie star today where you mention her name and you have that same feeling. I don't know if that answered the question, but my mind was around it.
No, I think, overall it did. The difference between film and
the thing is, just be yourself in any medium and let them tell you what they want. Whether you're in person or you're getting it by Zoom, they're going to tell you what they want, how they want the character played, and listen to direction, follow direction, and be as interesting as you can.
All right, thank you for that. Now, okay, this one's an interesting one because, I guess you worked with Robert De Niro, but before he got like super famous, right?
Right.
So how was working with him, and also what qualities were in him that maybe transit or helped him in his career? Like, was he a kind person or a good person to work with, or was he like
no,
no?
he very much stayed by himself. It was like his second movie. It was called The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight, and he was playing an Italian bicycle messenger. We had a scene together in the old lobby of the old Sheraton Hotel on 50th Street, and he never broke character. And I had never heard of Robert De Niro before, and I actually thought he had just gotten off the boat from Italy, and he was an Italian actor, and he had gotten this part in an American movie. So when the filming stopped, he kind of went off by himself. There was never any real exchange as Jim and Bob. Of course, he stayed totally in character the whole time it was being shot. And then later on, when he was promoting the film, I was shocked that he was American. No, I was absolutely shocked. I actually thought he was an Italian who had just landed the part in this picture. You know, and he's tiny. That's the other thing about De Niro that surprised me, is he's tiny.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, as actors, we always hear of those, actor stories that, people never break the character, or like method acting stuff like that. And people that go, sure, to great lengths to,
yeah,
for
he
the role.
Sure did. Not around when we were filming that scene. He didn't. He might have gone to his dressing room or his trailer and let off steam and spoken to people as himself. But when he was on set, he was that Italian.
Yeah, well, I guess also it's hard to get in and out of the role if you're like, okay, we're filming this scene, get on stage or get on set. And then if you're like not in character anymore, it takes a while to get back in, so it's easier to
see. I'm just the opposite. I can be playing poker with the stage hands, and hear a cue and walk through the door and I'm right there.
Yeah.
So zero preparation.
Yeah, I feel like it depends on actors too. I'm like that too. I'm like, okay, I'm just like chilling backstage. My scene is like in 2 scenes. I know when I'm on. Then I get on stage. Okay, in character.
Yeah, I got yelled at by an actor once who did a lot of preparation. I didn't know it. It was terribly embarrassing. In fact, he just passed away about 3 weeks ago. His name was Gregory Sierra, and he was on Barney Miller, and we were doing an off-Broadway show together, and he was the first one on, and I didn't know he was preparing, and I said something idiotic, and he said, "Can't you have respect for another actor?" And I thought, oh, I've learned a lesson tonight, and so I never did that again. Give actors their space to create.
Yes, I think that also goes for auditions too, audition rooms, because different people prepare differently for auditions.
True, absolutely true.
Especially when you're like, when there's like 100 other actors waiting in the audition room. Some people tend to like walk in and be like, "Oh, hey," to their friends, and I'm like, "Oh my God, can you shut up, please? I'm trying to like,
No,
I'm in line to go in next, and I'm trying to like prep, get into it." So it's
sure.
But also some people are just like, they're just chatting and they're like, "Oh, I'm about to go in the room," and then they just go in and get into character like that, and it's fine. So it really depends on the actor, I guess.
It does, yeah. But you have to assume that they're not open to jokes while they're preparing.
Yeah, exactly. I know some people, even in audition rooms, they're like super serious for like the whole thing, and they're there for like, if they're non-union, they're for hours, and this whole time they're like reviewing their monologue and stuff. So I guess some people are like that too. For me, as long as I can be left alone when I'm already in line to go in, it's like, oh, this group of 10 going in next. I'm like, okay, I'm in line. Don't talk to me. I'm getting into character. But before that, I'm like, whatever, just chat with people. So it's, I guess, every person is unique. So whatever it takes for us to prep. Okay, so we are pretty much out of time. So let me ask you this. If you could give any advice to all the actors out there, what would it be? And also, if it's more than one thing, I guess words of wisdom to finish off tonight's stream for all of us actors who are, aspiring to be like you, or like the stars you work with.
But you may not like the advice.
All right, here we go.
The advice is, if there's anything else you can do that you love, do it. Because acting is one rejection after another, no matter how talented you are. And you have to have a thick skin to take it. Because you will be hurt. And if there's some other way that you can find a creative outlet, because I said as an actor, you're one person going up for a part that 500 other people are going up against. And so your odds are really low. That being said, if I can't dissuade you from finding another profession, then focus. And as I said before, do something for your career every single day. If it's making a phone call, if it's seeing what agents are in town, seeing what's being shot in town, getting a new headshot, learning a monologue. Focus on that profession and then try to apply what you've learned to the first opportunities that you're afforded. And then let nature and fate take it from there. I have spoken.
Yes, I was, the advice about if you can find something else, then do that.
See, I couldn't.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be a part of it. And I didn't really care if I was shining actors' shoes, as long as I was part of the Broadway community. And, and I think one reason I am is just longevity. I've been around a long time,
Yeah, but that's an advice I've heard like a few times before, and I was like, okay, maybe I personally was like, okay, maybe I could find something else, and then I was just like, I feel like my soul is being crushed if I don't do this. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and I think even maybe eventually for me personally, if it's not acting, if it's getting into like producing, because I'm like super organized, and maybe I'll get into producing one day. I'll be happy doing that as long as it's, creating something. As long as it's not an office job. I just can't like office jobs or not. Although marketing is pretty interesting. I like marketing.
Well, see?
But I've tried it, but does not do the same for me as what acting does. So like there's more money in business, of course, than there is in acting, unless you're a star. But it's if you really love it, then do it. If you love something else just the same way, then maybe just do that. That's a good advice.
I think that's advice I would have given myself.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always community. There's always community theater. There's always student films. You can still do films and theater, just not full time kind of thing.
Right. And community playhouses and off, venues and clubs and things like that.
Yeah, I've personally done a lot of community theater, and I love it. It gives you, the sense of community, and also if you're starting out as an actor, it also helps you build your resume and get experience, stuff like that too.
Sure.
And student films too. I'm all up for student films.
All of the above.
All of the above. Like you said, if you can do something for your career, even if it's, a role in community theater or a film, do it. It's all experience,
And that's it.
All right. Well, this was very informative and great. And it still feels to me like we've only been at it for like 15 minutes. I know it doesn't feel like that to you, but...
I'm not used to this cushion, so it seems longer. But I blame it totally on the cushion.
Should have gotten a different chair.
I should have. A sturdier one. Well, thank you for having me. This has been enlightening. I found out stuff that I didn't know I knew.
There you go, see? And we haven't even touched, I don't think we talked about even like 10% of what you've done in your career.
Well.
It's like there's so much. So you guys go on Wikipedia and check out Jim's career.
Yeah, and if somebody go on IMDb and find out my name on The Good Fight. Of course, I still haven't thought of it.
Or that,
Judge. Oh, it's a good name, too.
That's
All
the
right.
first thing I'm gonna do right after this stream. Kind of go
Oh,
on
please do,
IMDb
and
and
then
find
you
out,
you can log it somewhere and tell people.
so people know. Yeah, it's probably on Wikipedia too, somewhere.
I doubt it. I doubt it, but it is on IMDb.
All right, so you guys, everybody, check that out.
Yes,
'Cause
check it out.
I'm checking it out. I want to know.
I'll wait for an answer.
All right. Well, oh, and Jalen is also saying 500 is a lot of actors to go up against. Well, yeah, and sometimes it's even more if it's for a big budget film. I'm sure there's more people.
Yeah, I was just using it to make a point that you're up against a lot of people.
Mhm.
You know,
So it's hard,
it
but
is
it's
hard.
doable.
It's very
It
hard.
is it is
and,
doable.
it's not good odds for a gambler, but you know, you do things with your heart, not with your head.
Okay, so Dan found out. It's Judge Vernon Windsor.
Vernon Windsor.
Yes, thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Judge, I always loved the name, Judge Vernon Windsor. Yeah, from New Hampshire. He's a lovely man.
Oh, you got to do the RP dialect and stuff too.
I do. I did a little bit from New Hampshire because Audra, she was representing a man who needed something about his passport, and it was lovely.
Awesome.
Vernon Windsor, thank you. Who found that?
Dan.
Oh, Dan, thank you. You're an angel.
Dan is. Oh, I was gonna repeat it, but I'm sure Dan can hear you. He's an angel. Thank you, Dan, and thank you for everybody who tuned in tonight and who tunes in every time. Next up, FYI, for those who want to watch our next stream, we have another Broadway actor who was just in Broadway's Frozen, the musical, the sensational
that?
musical Frozen, and he is also a TV and film actor, so he will be talking about more Broadway and film on Monday. So tune in for that. And if you'd like to find out our next streams, we have a bunch of people featured or going to be featured, including more actors, including agents. I know people have requested an agent to be on one of these streams. So we're actually having a couple of agents come in and talk about agency auditions and all that fun stuff.
Good.
So make sure to either follow this page, or I also dropped a link, the link to our group where I post all of these events. So join the group and you'll be notified. If you follow this page, you can, I believe it notifies you every time we go live or every time I post an event. And you can check it out. All the videos are available to watch after the event too if you can't tune in live. Sometimes we do draws with our stream guests, as many of you know. So if you tune in live, you get a chance to win something, usually a coaching with a draw with our guest artist. So thank you again, everyone.
Who's coming from Frozen?
Oh, Tyrone Robinson.
Oh, good.
He
Wonderful.
he played the king in Frozen. Now, because of COVID, obviously the run got cut short, but
Yeah.
he was in the run with Ciara Renee as Elsa.
Great. Thank
So-
you for having me.
Yes, thank you for doing this once again, and everybody who's watching, have a great night. We will hopefully see you on Monday, and have a great rest of the week. Bye, everyone.